folks. Old Man Grognard here. It's been a pretty interesting week. I've got the reviews coming out as usual. Did a Thaco's Hammer podcast. And had some decent gaming. Just, we're in the middle of Curse of Strahd right now. And our group of 3 or 4 has the distinction of surviving a full-on fireball from Strahd himself. Fortunately, we all made our saves, so a couple of healing prayers and healing potions later, we're sort of kind of back, you know, and that helps. The Oriental Ventures game is going all right, too. Not really much to say on that front. Got a stack of books to review. And more coming in. Which is okay with me, as long as it keeps you guys happy. Keeps you guys informed. That's the whole point. Well, let's see. We got one email from Jerry McDonald again. Hiya, Jerry. Glad to see you again. Or should I say hear from you? He says, I think the D&D might be trapped in its own success. Too many people have a vested interest in the way they know how to play, and to let the system change. It's been a few decades now, and they still haven't figured out what exactly a hit point is or how armor class works, or psionics, God help you. But that isn't the worst thing in the world. If you don't care too much about it, D&D is still a fun system to play with. I'll agree with that. Until you get into something like unarmed combat, which may explain why it just doesn't happen in most games. Which is a shame for reasons I've said before. But he goes on. In a way, D&D is a bit like McDonald's. You could almost call it McD&D. We talk about it so often because it's what people think of when they think of fast food, yet it is hardly the best burger in town. And that's a good thing, because had it provided the best burger from the start, then it would have totally monopolized the market, and there would be no room for all the other great games which grew up in their shadow. He makes a point there. I'll address that in a minute. If it could be done, I wouldn't be surprised to find that nearly every tabletop RPG had its roots in someone either wanting to do something that D&D didn't cover, or someone discontented with the way D&D handled this or that or some other thing. And I think I'm just tired and babbling, so I'll shut up now. God, good to hear from you, Jerry. Thanks, Jerry. Good to hear from you, too. He brings up an interesting point or two. It may not be the best burger in town, but if you like it, you can always dress it up with a few more condiments, a little more lettuce, things like that. I understand what he's saying, and yeah, a lot of it happened that way. A lot of it. And I mean, yeah, and people were convinced that the other genres were not served well with the class and level system that D&D offered. And they do have a point. I mean, and you know, the industry just wanted to, a lot of people in the industry just want to experiment with alternative ways of doing things, like, you know, dice pools, like point buy systems, things like that, which is okay. I mean, people are just coming back to the realization that certain editions of D&D, such as BX, are flexible, very flexible, because it wasn't the best burger in town, but it was the first, and it led the way. And since I am pretty much a proponent of, you know, frameworks in games, rules, light things, where it's okay to leave a hole or two, because there isn't a role-playing game out there that doesn't have a hole or two. I mean, we've all heard this before. You can't make a rule system that covers every single contingency that a player might think of, or thing a player might want to do. If that's the case, you wouldn't need game masters. It'd be like a computer game or something like that, or, you know. I know I'm kind of treading over old ground here, but he did make a point about it not being the best. I think it's the best for what it does, to tell you the truth. There's a lot of other fantasy type games out there, but I think D&D is the only one that really scratches the itch of fantasy for a lot of people. And there's a lot of games out there, a lot of independent games out there that are either retro clones of the original, or they said, well, let's do a variation on D&D. So the base is still there. They're just, I'm not saying they're just using glorified house rules, but, they're actually trying to do something different with it. And I'll tell you, it's a great toolbox to start with. Like all the hack games, Sharp Swords and Sinister Spells, Mazes and Perils, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Swords and Wizardry. I could go on and on and on, where they've taken the base and just ran with it in a different direction, but a similar direction. So it may be the McDonald's of role-playing games, but God bless it, I'm glad it is. And there is a lot of people out there who, in the general public, role-playing games seem to begin and end with D&D. Can't really fight that, but it didn't. And it's funny because D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, started out with a bunch of wargamers inventing this. Now, when people say war games to the general public, there is no one game that stands out. And, that is the iconic game. D&D is the iconic game for role players. That's why in 5th edition they were trying really hard to be family friendly. And what they wanted to call it is the game night version of D&D. They're the ones that wanted to see D&D up there with like the Monopoly set and things like that, which makes sense since, the big company is Hasbro. But they wanted that to be the go-to for, for the general public who were doing this. And I can see why they're doing it. They wanted this to make the be-all end-all in D&D, but to be the be-all end-all, D&D is still basic D&D. Rule Cyclopedia D&D, you could have thrown that up there with the Monopoly set and the Sorry game or Clue or whatever, and still had Family Game Night and just use that because it's a lot easier to use. But that's my opinion, again. So it's more power to them. And like I said, since D&D is the iconic game, so be it. And if it wasn't for, and of course it wasn't for D&D, we wouldn't have all these other wonderful games out there, different systems, whatever. And a thriving community, which I think is a thriving community, which got bigger with the internet. I think role-playing games as a community really took off on the internet when the internet came along. And then the next shot in the arm was the OSR movement, where people started re-examining the older games going, hey, we can still play these. Let's play them. So, that's pretty much my stand without having to, beat a dead horse too much. Always a dead horse for me to beat around here. Always. So, I guess that'll be it for now. This one's going to be a short one. And you guys, we can have more chats like this, and I can go off on more stuff like this. If you want to send me an email, please do at oldmangrognard@gmail.com. So until next time, bye-bye.